Today's episode of the Wildcats Roundup is brought to you by St. Vincent College. See how St. Vincent College prepares students for successful careers and meaningful lives at www.stvincent.edu. Again, that's www.stvincent.edu. St. Vincent College, together we rise.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Wildcats Roundup here on the Wildcats Network YouTube channel. I'm Richard Hillwig alongside with Tristen Borland, and today we come to you live from Rossi Field and the Arnold Palmer Fieldhouse, the home of Greater Latrobe Athletics. And Tristen, while there might not be any official games for Greater Latrobe Athletics over the next 2 months, Greater Latrobe, the Gridiron Wildcats, they're looking to do and prepare for their season opener against Connellsville in 2 months.
No, you're absolutely right, Richard. First of all, it is a pleasure to be here. I know not a lot of people get the good graces of Ron Prady to get to come here and do this, but seriously, we've been very fortunate to be able to be here over the summer and be a part of this summer training that the Cats are going through. When you bring up that first game, it's very important. I bet you that's in the back of Ron Prady's mind, that we are going to need to set a mindset, set a tempo, set a precedent in that first game against Connellsville. And so the real question is going to be, what precedent do the Cats want to set? I think that what Ron Prady saw at West Allegheny is exactly what he wants to see in that first game against Connellsville. Physical, hard running, and a very physical and almost smothering defense. And so from what I'm seeing out here in training, I think that's exactly what they're looking for. Well,
last year for Greater Latrobe, it was a season in which the Greater Latrobe faithful hadn't seen in 22 years, Tristen.
Yeah, Richard, that's incredible.
Yes, it is. The Wildcats started the regular season with a 2-2 record and ended up winning 5 of their final 6 games to finish 7-3 in the regular season. They finished 8-4 overall and got the program's first 7-win regular season for the first time since 2001. Not only that, but it was the first time the program had eclipsed back-to-back 7-win seasons in program history. Additionally, Greater Latrobe collected 8 wins in their season for the first time since 1984. Talking about the West Allegheny game, after the 39-7 win over number 8 West Allegheny, Greater Latrobe would fall in the 4A playoffs to the eventual WPIAL and PIAA 4A champions, Aliquippa, 37-29 in the second round. And despite the heartbreaking exit to the playoffs for Greater Latrobe, giving Aliquippa by far the biggest test that they had all postseason, they should have a lot to be excited about for this year.
Absolutely. Like you said, even though last season didn't really go the way Latrobe wanted to, obviously a lot of people wanted to see the Cats win at the Pit. It didn't happen. But the thing that I want to know is that the big buzz during the postseason, like during the WPIL championship and then consequently during the PIAA playoffs, is that everybody was buzzing about the Cats. And another thing to note, a lot of the big playmakers in that game at the Pit, Alex Tash, John Wetzel, those guys are back. A lot of the players from that game are back, and they're, from what I'm seeing out there in practice, Richard, they're better than ever.
And it's not just that they're back, but they also bring a lot of intrigue and excitement this year to not just here at Latrobe, but maybe to the rest of Westmoreland County.
Oh, I mean, ever since Ron Prady, and again, a lot of these players that are back behind us just finishing up with practice today, a lot of them have noticed that since Ron Prady has come, that there's been a lot more uptick in terms of the coverage, not just from us, but across the board in terms of media wanting to follow Wildcats football. And I think you're right. I think there's a lot to be excited about and a lot of exciting things that are about to be coming up this season that I cannot wait to see what they have in store for us.
And while, yes, the Wildcats will be graduating key seniors from last year's team, particularly Jaton Williams, Ben Guerra, and Zach Shuey on that offensive line, they should have the depth to overcome maybe some of the high-end players that they had from last year's team, looking right at their senior class.
Oh, absolutely. And that senior class, I think, is really important. I mean, you have Brady Prahovic is one of them, Alex Tash, and John Wetzel. All those are just a few seniors to note that are really going to be game changers in this coming season. And think about that, that's a backfield.
Yeah, that's
a scary backfield.
It's pretty good. For more on what this summer has entailed for Greater Latrobe, let's go talk to head coach Ron Prady.
Thanks, Richard. Folks, Tristen Borland here in the locker room at Rossi Field along with the one and only Coach Ron Prady. Coach, first of all, thank you so much for letting us back here again this year. We had such a blast covering the team on all the football games you guys had last year. Didn't quite end the way you guys wanted to with a quarterfinal loss in the Whitfield Finals to Aliquippa at the Pit. based off of what I saw last year, there are a lot of things to be really excited for as we get ready for this upcoming season.
Yeah, there are. I think the general growth of our program is what we're most excited about. Our kids' mentality is that they believe they're going to win week in and week out. They put a ton of work in since January to get to this point, and they're kind of itching and excited to get the season started.
Now, when you talk about itching and getting ready for the season to start on the right foot, what are things that you guys are doing right now over the summer to make sure that whenever the season starts, you guys are ready for it to kind of end on a different note?
I think last time we spoke, we talked about the difference in moving up from 4 to 5A. The physical nature of 5A tends to take more of a toll on your body. So we focused on trying to get bigger and stronger and spend a lot of time in the weight room, understanding that the physical battles do take a toll on you, and we want to be prepared for that. Also, our kids put in a lot of work trying to get faster, too. With FSQ group coming in and training our guys, they've been a huge asset for us. We're grateful to have those guys. The jump from 4 to 5A is something that we've got to be ready for.
While you guys were in 4A, you went on back-to-back 7-win seasons. Do you feel that last year's success is kind of a snowball effect? Your first year, you blew a lot of people out of the water with how successful and the culture that you built in this team. Do you think that, again, your first year kind of helped your second year go a little bit more smoothly?
Yeah, no doubt. The big thing is the kids have bought in and they believe in what we're doing. They believe in one another, which is huge. So to go from the first year 7 wins, maybe that surprised some people, not us, to 8 wins last year, and hopefully we're going to build on that and tack on a few more wins than 8 this year. But like I always say, the most important game is the next one, and we can't look ahead. We're focused on Connellsville at this point, and we're focused on ourselves and getting better.
And when you look at the success last season, you talk about culture, how you guys are constantly talking about building a culture. What are you doing at these practices that kind of help instill that culture?
Yeah, it's the practices, but it's also our expectations of our players at school, our expectations of our players in the community, the way they carry themselves, the way they treat each other, the way they treat adults. That's all important to us. And I think all of those things lead to building a culture. It's a culture where they grow to love each other. We spend so much time together. They care about each other. They learn to put the team ahead of themselves. And everybody wants to have personal success, and I get that. When you put the success of the team ahead of yourself, I think you get a bunch of guys doing that, and that lends to a great culture where winning is the sole focus. And I think that's where we're at now.
So you talk about winning. Last year's juniors are now becoming this year's seniors. They got to have a lot of fun winning and having the team itself be very successful. And now those juniors, now again becoming seniors this year, are kind of filling in those leadership roles that last year's seniors have left open. What are you seeing in terms of the development of this year's seniors?
Yeah, well, a lot of these guys have been playing for 2 years. A lot of these guys will be 3-year starters. So, the progression is you kind of learn the way we do things here, which is different probably than a lot of places. It's unique. But when you go through it and you're an underclassman, the idea is that you learn from those guys and you grow into that leadership role. And it's just a natural progression. And we tell our young guys all the time, you're going to learn from these guys. You're going to look up to these guys. They're going to help you along the way, physically, academically, socially. They'll help you. And then one day it's your turn to take over and kind of steer the ship. And there's a lot of things that we don't have to police as a staff. Our players do it, and that's when I think you're in a great spot.
I would agree. And when we talk about that senior class, you got to talk about one player who has not only Latrobe buzzing, but some would even argue has Happy Valley, all up in a stir. 4-star athlete Alex Tash, who will be continuing his football career at Penn State with Coach Franklin. How big is it for you to have Alex Tash back for his senior year?
Well, it's huge to have him, and more importantly is I think he's healthy going into this year, whereas last year he wasn't. Alex is such a phenomenal player and more importantly a phenomenal kid. He's kind of stepped into some leadership roles for us, and I think every kid, not only in this football program but probably in our school and our community, admire him for the way he carries himself. Very humble, cares about the team, ahead of himself, and loves to win, loves to compete. So having a guy like Alex, and then John and Jack Drenovich and Braden Bronson and Timmy Myers and Cody Crawl, and I could go on and on. I mean, there's tons of great players in this class. We're thrilled to have these guys back and look forward to getting started.
You touched on it a little bit ago, the move from 4A back up to 5A. You guys are now back in the Big East. You're going to be playing teams that you guys know all too well. Penn Trafford, Franklin Regional, Gateway, Armstrong is now moving into your section as well. Are there any teams that you guys kind of have circled on your calendar? I know we talked a while ago, and I felt like you gave us a little bit of a flat answer. I think you really are. There has to be one or two teams that you guys are looking forward to.
Well, we're looking forward to Connellsville.
Oh, really?
Because that's week 1. Mm-hmm. That's our first game. And people ask me all the time about PT. And
I'm sure you're sick and tired of hearing about it.
I'm sure John is too over there. But the thing is, and I told you before, if we're 2-7 going into PT, nobody cares. If we're both 7-2 or 8-1 or 9-0, then it means something. I think John would echo my sentiment that we hope that means something. We both hope that game means something. Because if it doesn't, like I said, if we're both out of the playoff picture, nobody's going to care. But,
we'll care. I promise we'll care.
But it won't be as big a deal as it is, hopefully. Hopefully we get to that point and it means something. It's important to both teams. We'll be excited for that. But like I said, we're focused on Connellsville. And I mean that. I know I say that all the time and every year, but that's the truth. We have to worry about playing well at Connellsville. And that's where our focus is. And then after that, we'll move on and prepare for the next week. But I think that's the only real way to go about the season. If you start looking forward to week 10, I think you're in trouble.
So you mentioned the physicality level at 5A. What are you guys doing in practice? Are you guys trying to focus a little bit more on your strength training to be able to compete with those bigger guys on those other teams? Are you trying to be more worried about your speed? Is it a little bit more about the stretching, kind of keeping healthy?
It's all of it. You have to do all of it. Like I mentioned earlier, we've put a ton of work in the weight room. We put a ton of speed and agility work and explosiveness training with FSQ. We're going to continue to do that throughout the summer. We get a lot of field work in. We haven't changed anything, I'll say that. We feel like the formula we have is working here. Our kids understand it. They bought in. They enjoy it. And they see the fruits of their labor when they work hard. So we haven't changed a whole lot this year just because of the move, but we do focus on getting bigger and faster and stronger, for sure.
Coach, it's been a pleasure to be here during the month of June, but I want to ask you, as we transition into that July, you're going to be halfway through the summer. What should we expect on the Wildcats Network as we start to kind of see you guys pick up the intensity a little bit?
We're going to continue to do what we do. It's a long, grueling off season. At this point, the closer we get to the season, we'll probably back down a little bit. We've done a lot. We want as fresh a legs as we can get come August. So, and the heat's going to pick up, which is great. But we may even tone it down a little bit towards the back half of July, just to have some fresh legs when we go into August. But we're going to keep our same routine. We believe in it, and like I said, the kids believe in it, and it's worked for us, and hopefully it will keep working.
Hey, Coach Ron Prady, thank you again as always.
Thank you and Rich and the rest of the guys for everything you guys do.